October is Family History Month, and if you've ever wondered about your family's past or place in history, now is the time to dive into your journey of personal discovery. Here to provide insights on how to start discovering your story is Director of Research at Ancestry, Jennifer Utley, who can speak to the value of learning your family history and the positive impact it has on families and individuals. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, thank you for having me.
First off, tell us, why is it so important to know your family history?
You know, learning the stories of your ancestors can add a new layer of context to your life today. Researchers at Emory University did a study where they found out whether or not children knew the stories of their ancestors, and they found that those that did were more self-reliant, they had better self-esteem, and they even did better scholastically. So learning the story of your ancestors can be relevant to your life today.
I hear that, knowing where you come from. So if someone wants to get to know their history, their family history, what do you recommend they take as a first step?
So the first thing that I do is just in your gatherings with your family, start talking about your ancestors. Maybe add a few topics to your dinner time conversation. Pick up the phone and call Grandma and Grandpa, and even get out the photo albums and start paging through and telling the stories you find there. And as you gather that information together, you can take it to Ancestry and start a family tree, and then you can add more tools and more layers as you add an Ancestry DNA test.
That's fascinating. If you start this family tree, do you need a lot of information to get started? What if you only have a couple pieces of information?
It is so easy to get started on your family tree. You really just start with what you know. So you add yourself, and you add your parents, and then you add your grandparents, and add any dates and locations that you might know of, and even guesses will help, because what happens is, in the background, Ancestry is going to check through their 20 billion historical records and offer up the records that we think match this family that you're creating. So you can take a look at maybe census records where your great-grandfather answered the door and answered the census takers' questions, and you learn that information and you use that information to push back your family tree into the past. Then if you add an Ancestry DNA component to it, that can fill in some new gaps for you.
You mentioned the DNA, and we hear a lot about DNA tests, and they can be pretty complex. Some people are a little skeptical because what the DNA may reveal, or just what they're going to learn about themselves. What do you say to that?
Well, what many people don't understand, that if we're just human beings, we share 99.5% of our DNA. That genetic makeup is the same. It's that 0.5% that makes you really unique, and that's the part you want to learn about. So in taking an Ancestry DNA test, you'll get back a report that shows you all the places in the world where your ancestors come from. You might learn some of their migration patterns, and with 15 million people in the database, you can get connected to other people that share the same genetic material you have. So if you take the records and the Ancestry DNA together, you can really make magic with the two of them.
And you mentioned records, so discovering those historical records can really help tell the story, but it seems like a big task. What do you recommend?
Well, it's really not that hard if you just go record by record and you go generation by generation. So you take those clues, you read between the lines with the records, and then you learn what you can from the Ancestry DNA, which can also point you into specific locations to help you with your record search.
Sounds super fascinating. I guess it's time for me to start digging in my record books and get started on my family tree and just kind of figure it out where we come from. It's so important. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jennifer.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
This interview involves commercial content. The products and services featured appear as paid advertising.